on them. She's turned this into an exercise gallop. Behold her is absolutely poetry in motion. Here's the race we've been waiting for. California Chrome digs deep, he finds more. Shared Belief is stretching him every yard of the way. What a thriller this one is. Shared Belief has him, and Shared Belief just exuding class.
As they come to the wire, a Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
I'm Todd Schrupp for TVG's Year in Review 2015, brought to you by Keeneland Sales and Racing. There are years in horse racing where there are performances you might remember for a little while after. But 2015 was a generational moment, courtesy of American Pharoah in his sweep of the Triple Crown. He made many fans that were cemented as horse racing fans in the year, and then fans for generations to come. I was reminded of this the day after the Belmont Stakes when I was on the backside, Bob Baffert holding court with the media, and then all of a sudden he invited the media to rush in and pet American Pharoah. As hundreds did, American Pharoah looked straight into my camera, and I took a picture that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Many pictures were seen on TVG over the course of 2015, but none more important than those moments with American Pharoah. And that's where we begin with Rich Perloff.
You know, by the time that American Pharoah made his 3-year-old debut, we hadn't seen him on the racetrack in several months, and a lot of stuff had happened in between. He was the dominant 2-year-old. He didn't make the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Then he came back in the Rebel Stakes at a time when Bob Baffert's other 3-year-old, Dortmund, was kind of setting the world on fire. Me, I was holding my breath. I always thought, even though I respected Dortmund, that he might just be the second best 3-year-old in Bob Baffert's barn. And when American Pharoah did what he did in his 3-year-old debut in the Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn Park, I knew, as did many of you, he was the real deal. Rest is history.
They're in the final furlong, and it's all American Pharoah answering this test with flying colors. American Pharoah will romp home in the Rebel, widening to win by about 8. My introduction to American Pharoah came in the Rebel Stakes, and I've always believed you should look at trainer intent and strategy. Bob Baffert is suddenly sending this horse off a string of works to a big race in Arkansas. And the Zayat family actually showed up. It was their first ever visit, so you knew this was a serious horse. That day, he just splashed home. He was all by himself. We didn't really know what we had just yet. The big test for him came in the Arkansas Derby. And when he turned for home, I saw something I had never seen before in a horse race live, a spectacular performance. And I had called Tiz Now breaking the track record in Louisiana Downs' Super Derby. That was something I'll never forget. And we're very proud of what American Pharoah accomplished after that. It didn't come as a surprise to me, or I think the fans, after that performance in the Arkansas Derby. There's a new leader at the top of the stretch. It's American Pharoah, putting away Bridget's Big Lovey. Mr. Z moves into second. On the outside, Win the Space and the Truth or Else. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go, and American Pharoah is putting on a show. He has not been asked the question, but everyone knows the answer. He is indeed the ruler. American Pharoah, breathtaking in a mesmerizing performance as he dominates the Arkansas Derby.
I had never seen Santa Anita like this in the decade plus that I've been covering racing, but it was California Chrome versus Shared Belief in the San Antonio. Shared Belief supporters still looking for a little revenge after what happened in the Breeders' Cup Classic, despite the fact that he'd come into this race with a win in the Grade 1 Malibu, and California Chrome fresh off of picking up his trophy for Horse of the Year in South Florida. It was a matchup that certainly did deliver at the great race place, Santa Anita Park.
Here's the race we've been waiting for. California Chrome digs deep, he finds more. Shared Belief is stretching him every yard of the way. What a thriller this one is. Shared Belief has him, and Shared Belief just exuding class. Shared Belief, handwritten by Mike Smith, wins with his ears pricked.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby. And American Pharoah broke okay. He's on the outside of horses, and Dortmund is out even better. And Carpe Diem is there, and Firing Line's in the early mix too. It's going to be Dortmund to set the pace here in the Kentucky Derby. Firing Line on the outside is second. American Pharoah is third to the outside of them. Carpe Diem is right there. Dancing Moon is close and running in between horses. Then Bolo. Mr. Z is after that, and then Ocho, Tencender. Upstart is 3 wide as they move into the turn. He's 8 lengths off the lead. Then the World Traveler Mubtahij is down on the inside. It's a Knockout is next. Materiality farther behind than we expected. And then comes Frosted, War Story. Keen Ice and Fermento near the back of the field. And the trailer is far right as they make their way to the backstretch. It is Dortmund in front. He went a half mile in an easy 47 1/5 seconds. Dortmund, the leader up the backstretch, a half a length, and Gary Stevens has Firing Line right in second position. And American Pharoah will be third up the backstretch. He's 2.5 lengths off of his stablemate. Carpe Diem follows in fourth. Dancing Moon is fifth, and he's 5 lengths off the lead. Then Bolo on the outside of Ocho. Mubtahij is 7 lengths behind. And then it's Mr. Z, Upstart. Tencender is after that, and it's a Knockout, and they're rounding the far turn. And Dortmund is the leader. He's on top by a half length, and Firing Line confronts him. And American Pharoah has come under a ride as Firing Line takes the lead outside of Dortmund. Here comes American Pharoah, and he sweeps up on the far outside, and they're into the stretch, and it's American Pharoah who has taken the lead on the outside. In between horses, it's Firing Line. Dortmund is down at the rail as they come into the final furlong. American Pharoah, Firing Line not done yet, and these two come into the final 16th. It's American Pharoah in front, Firing Line. Dortmund is third, Frosted is fourth. Coming to the finish, American Pharoah and Victor Espinoza have won the Kentucky Derby.
Well, chances are a lot of people are saying American Pharoah in some way is their favorite memory of the year. But I'm wondering if there are any that are picking the Preakness as their moment. That's what I'm going to choose as the favorite time of the year for me to see American Pharoah in action, because number one, I was there. I wasn't at the Derby or the Belmont. But just the way that about 5 minutes to post, it was a beautiful day, and all of a sudden it just started to pour. The rain was coming down. I remember Victor Espinoza in the winner's circle after the race dumping all the water out of his boot, and the way that he won that race so impressively as well. Really, everybody was getting excited about absolutely having a chance to win the Triple Crown. At that point, hey, he was just a Derby and a Preakness winner, but we all know he went on to win the Belmont after that. But the Preakness, my favorite moment of the year.
And they're into the stretch in the slop at Pimlico, and American Pharoah has pulled away to a 2.5 length lead over Divining Rod. And then it's Dortmund. Tail of Verve, a huge long shot, is making a move on the far outside, but American Pharoah is all by himself. He is 5 lengths in front as they come to the wire, and American Pharoah and Victor Espinoza have won the Preakness over Tail of Verve.
I've been lucky enough to attend some great sporting events in my lifetime. How about one of the great baseball games of all time? Game 7, Metrodome, Minneapolis, 1991, Twins-Braves. Yes, Jack Moore's 10 scoreless innings, and my Twins beat the Braves 1-0. 1993, I was there at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, Nevada, the old outdoor venue. Bo Holyfield 2, great heavyweight championship fight. Yes, the fight that Fan Man came into the ring in the early part of round 7, and chaos ensued. 20-minute delay. It was nuts. But the greatest sporting event I've ever been at, hands down, was a 2015 Belmont Stakes. And it wasn't just American Pharoah doing something, making history, winning the Triple Crown, something that had not been done since 1978. It was the buildup to the race. It was being in the paddock, feeling the electricity 30 minutes before the race. It was being right next to the tunnel when American Pharoah came out on the racetrack, to the applause of all the people at Belmont Park, hundreds of photographers taking his picture. And yes, it was being close to the finish line when American Pharoah hit the wire first with Victor Espinoza aboard. After that, I don't remember all that much. It was surreal. It was deafening. I've never been at a sporting venue where it got louder and the volume went on for minute after minute after minute. It was deafening for probably 8 to 10 minutes. You had strangers hugging each other, most people, just about everybody in tears. I turned to Scott Hazelton and gave him probably the best bear hug in the history of bear hugs. I've been going to the racetrack my entire life, and literally nothing will ever compare to June 6th, Saturday, 2015 at Belmont Park.
Around the far turn, and American Pharoah continues to lead the way. He's on top by 3/4 of a length. And American Pharoah kicks away. American Pharoah has opened up a 2-length lead as they come to the top of the stretch. And Frosted has moved up into second, and they're into the stretch. And American Pharoah makes his run for glory as they come into the final furlong. Frosted is second with 1/8 of a mile to go. American Pharoah's got a 2-length lead. Frosted is all out at the 16th pole. And here it is. The 37-year wait is over. American Pharoah is finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
My favorite memory of 2015 has to be the Haskell at Monmouth Park. Seeing American Pharoah in person put on a show over the Oceanport Oval, and not only the race itself, the week leading up to the event, the crowds on hand to see him arrive, to see his training leading up to the big race, the buzz around Monmouth Park that week, my favorite memory of 2015.
American Pharoah comes looking for the lead at the quarter pole, and he quickly puts away competitive edge. They're at the top of the stretch, and America's horse has opened up. It's American Pharoah with that majestic stride, pouring it on through the stretch. Keen Ice runs into second. American Pharoah, the party continues as he rolls home in the Haskell.
The month of August and the highlight of the summer was no doubt in the TVG Pacific Classic with a victory by Beholder.
Everybody in the grandstand was cheering for one horse, and it was just an electric atmosphere to be a part of.
It's her first test against males and her first race going 1.25 miles.
With California Chrome and Shared Belief on the sidelines at the time, it was perfect for a matchup that may be set up at the end of the year between her and American Pharoah.
She was traveling up the backstretch. Gary Stevens had her in a perfect tracking position, 3 wide, just off the leaders. But the move and the effortlessness that she showed going into the far turn to go past the leaders is something that I'm always going to remember for Beholder.
That move was visually like nothing you've ever seen. And you could take someone who had never been to the racetrack before, someone who hadn't been used to watching races, and they could see just how dominant she was.
I knew she was good, but I didn't know she was this good.
I was 1 box away from Richard Mandella and his family, and watching it from his perspective was so exciting. His entire family was jumping up and down, everybody going crazy, clapping. I watched Richard. He knew she was home a winner, and then he looked at the crowd, and he just kind of leaned back. He took it all in. He soaked up the moment. He soaked up that atmosphere, clapped and applauded, and then had some tears in his eyes as he made his way down to the winner's circle. And I just can't imagine how exciting it must have been for the entire team that is close to Beholder. My favorite moment of 2015.
It vaulted her into major conversation in the older handicap division. 2016 could be hers for the taking, and we might be standing here a year from now talking about Beholder.
Into the turn they go in the TVG Pacific Classic, and Bayern is still the leader. Here comes Beholder, and Beholder just breezing on by. Beholder strikes the front. Gary Stevens hasn't moved, and Beholder's opened up to lead by 5. Red Vine making a run. Opportunity on the outside. Bayern did not go on. They turn for home in the Pacific Classic, and it's Beholder. Gary Stevens just shakes the reins at her, and Beholder is opening up on them. Almost impossible to believe. She's turned this into an exercise gallop. Beholder is absolutely poetry in motion. Beholder and Gary Stevens didn't win it. They romped in the Pacific Classic.
It's incredibly difficult to pick just one moment out of 2015 that really stands out to me because there's so many. But if I had to pick, if you twisted my arm, I would probably have to say the Breeders' Cup Classic with American Pharoah. I had the absolute honor and pleasure of being at the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland Racecourse, and to see all of the fans out there with, you know, we're in this new day and age where you bring out your phones and your cameras and adding things to every social media site you have, and to see the thousands of fans out there when he was parading in front of them. There wasn't an empty spot. I mean, I'm a very short person, so I had to go to the rooftop to actually see American American Pharoah running the Breeders' Cup Classic. I probably shouldn't say that on air, but I was above the racing office. Myself, camerawoman Anna James, we were up there, and we got to see it. Just the roar of the crowd when he broke out of the starting gate. And then when he came around that final turn and just opened up, you can truly tell that he loves what he's doing. He has given us something that we haven't seen for years. I mean, in my lifetime, I've never seen a Triple Crown champion. To actually witness that in person and to see that he just loves what he does as a racehorse, and to see him close that book on his racing career with a bang, that's the moment for me that really stands out in 2015. American Pharoah in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
And they're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and American Pharoah, quick and to stride, comes right out for the lead and gets over toward the rail as the field moves by the stands with FNX there up on the outside. Tonalist in close quarters early here down toward the rail in third, right behind American Pharoah. Frosted will go fourth. Keen Ice is in fifth. Hard Ace is sixth on the outside of Glen Eagles in seventh, and Honor Code eighth and last, 8 lengths off the lead. American Pharoah takes the field into the first turn. FNX long shot just off his flank in second. Tonalist in good position here in third by a length and a half. Frosted is in fourth. Keen Ice outward from the rail fifth. Then Glen Eagles, Hard Aces, and Honor Code. The first quarter went in 23 4/5 seconds. And American Pharoah will dictate the terms and guides the field onto the backstretch. Leads it by just a length. Here's FNX again moving forward toward the outside. The first half mile in 47 2/5 seconds. Gap of 2 back to Tonalist just inside of Frosted, who's fourth on the outside. A gap of 7 more back to Keen Ice. Glen Eagles toward the inside. Then Hard Aces, and Honor Code is still last and running nearly a dozen lengths off the lead as the field heads for the far turn. American Pharoah in front for Victor Espinosa by 2 lengths. FNX, then Frosted and Tonalist toward the inside. And now here comes Tonalist looking for running room toward the rail. FNX toward the outside. They're all beginning to bear down on American Pharoah. Frosted is there in fourth, regains third by just ahead, midway on the far turn. American Pharoah through it all, still in front, opens back up here by 2.5, 3 lengths to the top of the stretch. FNX continues to give chase. Frosted third, Tonalist in fourth, a quarter mile from home, and American Pharoah is into the stretch at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Classic. A 5-length lead as he comes to the 8th pole. FNX second, Frosted far back in third, Tonalist is in fourth. Into the final furlong, there will be a 4th jewel in the crown. He's an everlasting credit to the sport. American Pharoah has belted a grand slam in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
My favorite moment of 2015 had to be the Filly Mare sprint on Breeders' Cup Friday. I fell in love with the horse Wayville Avenue about 3 days before, but I actually bet her in the Gallant Bloom, which was the grade 2 at 6.5 furlongs. Her nemesis was La Verdad, and I always felt that maybe she could beat her at that distance. And on that day, she stumbled out of the gate, and to me, ran a gallant second. To me, those horses that chase a champion like La Verdad, I just felt like she would come back maybe at 7 furlongs on Breeders' Cup Friday and get the job done. And it led to one of my heart-pumping moments between me and Todd Schrupp, banging the desk to victory.
Meanwhile, here is Stone-tastic coming after La Verdad. Terrace looking for room toward the inside. She's third. And then a gap of 5 more lengths back to Mary Meadow. Judy the Beauty, Wayville Avenue. Wayville Avenue is coming stoutly on the outside. La Verdad has the lead. Wayville Avenue, then Terrace. Wayville Avenue just keeps on grinding. And Wayville Avenue wins it.
I love horses that just win races, and the 9-year-old Maryland-bred gelding Ben's Cat is the epitome of that type of animal. 30 wins in 53 lifetime starts, earnings of over $2.5 million, and 25 stakes wins. Now, 2015 might not have been Ben's Cat's best year on the racetrack, but it sure was for his trainer, King Leatherberry. Long overdue, the King was elected to the National Racing Hall of Fame, and Ben's Cat a big part in getting King Leatherberry into the Racing Hall of Fame. An amazing animal who is still trying at the age of 9, and hopefully we'll see him back for a 10-year-old campaign. He broke his maiden first out for a $25,000 claiming tag and came right back and ran for $25,000 a second time. Since then, 25 stakes wins, including the Mr. Diz, an unbelievable 6 straight times he won the same stake. Ben's Cat, 9 years old and still going strong, a true warrior.
A 16th left to run on the Mr. Diz. Ben's Cat, a 9 officer. Ben's Cat to win it by a neck. 6th consecutive win of the Mr. Diz Stakes. He's something else. 30 wins now for Ben's Cat.
My 2015 highlight, well, you're going to call me a homer, but it was the master stroke ride of jockey Cliff Berry in the Oklahoma Derby aboard Shotgun Cowboy, trained by C.R. Trout. When they left the gate and I saw Cliff Berry go to the front with Shotgun Cowboy, I thought, oh, this is outstanding. Cliff is riding this horse like he's the best horse in the race. When they got to the half-mile pole, I could see that Cliff had plenty of racehorse. I've seen him ride over the years. I know what he has when he has horse in the tank. At the top of the stretch, that terrific ride continued as Cliff rode tight. He backed up the competition that was coming and trying to rally and gain on him with momentum. And as they got inside the final furlong and reached the 16th pole, my eyes had already started to well up. My wife, Kay, was with me. I left her in the dust as I took off whooping and hollering and jumping. And I think by the time Shotgun Cowboy and Cliff got to the finish line, I was there as well, en route to the winner's circle. It was really something special. That and the culmination, of course, of Cliff and his retirement year at Remington Park. I think it caught up with me once I made it to the winner's circle. After I'd wiped the tears out of my eyes, they were starting to come again. Cliff Berry told me afterwards, he says, man, I'm glad you pulled it together because I was starting to lose it watching you. Anyway, it was a terrific year. And of course, Shotgun Cowboy winning the Oklahoma Derby was my moment of the year.
Shotgun Cowboy, the Oklahoma bred, has the lead by 2 as they straighten away. Here's Desert Dynamo chasing second, outside to Mobile Bay, then Bold Conquest. At the 16th, Shotgun Cowboy is all out to fend off Desert Dynamo, who's creeping up with every stride. Oklahoma Derby won for the second time by an Oklahoma bred, Shotgun Cowboy.
I had to say my favorite memory of 2015 at TVG was becoming boss for the day, as we had a 3-day handicapping contest with our on-air talent, and I was lucky enough to win the finals there by 50 cents over Simon Bray with a pretty nice double there at Churchill Downs. But, you know, one thing about being boss for the day, other than the perk of hanging out in the corner office there at the TVG studios, was the fact that I really wanted to challenge the handicappers. I think that this is a game of competition, and competitors always need a challenge. So my challenge to our handicappers was to really narrow down their opinion, let the viewers know which horse they were most enthralled with, which one they felt like putting your money on would be a good idea, and also kind of reducing our ticket size to really just give the bare bones of our opinion. So we had fried chicken for lunch. Leave it to the guy from the Midwest to bring out the fried chicken for our health-conscious folks there at work. Have to apologize for that for at least a day, but I think everybody enjoyed it. And maybe one day in the future I'll be able to have a position of power once again. It was enjoyable for at least a day.
One thing about this game of horse racing is you never know what you're going to see, and sometimes you see things where you realize it may never happen again, and that's exactly the way Champions Weekend played out at Los Alamitos for the sport of quarter horse racing. First of all, you had a showdown for the ages in the Champion of Champions. Muniz, who some people felt got jobbed last year by not getting world champion honors in the sport of quarter horse racing, was facing one of the fastest horses we had seen in quite some time. He's a Dash of Fire. He's a Dash of Fire only had one blemish, only one race that he didn't win on his resume. That was the richest race in California as a 2-year-old in the Los Alamitos $2 million futurity. But as a 3-year-old, he went into the Champion of Champions undefeated, and he absolutely blew doors off. He was a length and change in front of Muniz, who was in turn a length and change in front of everybody else in the Champion of Champions. This is the toughest quarter horse race on the planet, and he made some great horses look cheap. But that's not the part that I'll never see again. The part that I'll never see again is his half-brother. That's right, out of the same broodmare, I'm a Fearless Hero, who was one of the best 2-year-olds going into the Los Alamitos $2 million futurity, from the same post position draw on the outside, number 10 for Jose Flores, gets the job done in the richest race in California. So you have half-siblings for the same owners, for the same trainer, with the same jockey. Hats off to the Manili family who owns these horses, and of course, the rider Cruz Mendez, who scored in both. But you'll never see anything like that again. It was even the same saddle towel number. Truly amazing, and one of my highlights of the year in 2015.
And away they go on the Champion of Champions. Muniz came away well, but so did He's a Dash of Fire. The great Farniente is running a big one as well. And now trying to rally on his Quirky to the extreme outside is He's a Dash of Fire. Muniz is trying to go with the younger horse. He's a Dash of Fire, though, is absolutely raging with run. One of the most spectacular Champion of Champions winners I've ever called. He's a Dash of Fire, crushes the field. And away they go on the Los Alamitos $2 million futurity. I'm a Fearless Hero started off beautifully, and so did Doc's Best Card as the 2 qualifiers came out with their minds on running. Dynasty Energy and Senior Gianni trying to rally on as well, and so as We Like Corona. Doc's Best Card down along the inside. Here's I'm a Fearless Hero, and I'm a Fearless Hero beats Doc's Best Card.
For all the moments that took place on the racetrack in 2015, it was a moment away from the races that truly impacted me. In late spring, I got a call from my boss, Kevin Grigsby, telling me I need to get to the TVG studios right away. We were going to make an announcement that our colleague Simon Bray was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. It changed the rest of my year. It changed my life in a lot of ways, along with Simon Bray. But out of this dark moment came so many phenomenal moments in 2015 because of you. Countless people came up and offered their support for Simon Bray. They sent cards, they sent letters, well wishes constantly throughout the year. And then when Simon came back, remarkable moments that I got to witness. Many of you coming up telling your own stories of recovery and encouragement to Simon Bray. It goes to show that in this world that can sometimes have some dark moments, we can all be points of light. 2015, one of the most unforgettable years at TVG and in horse racing. I'm Todd Schrupp. Thank you for watching TVG's Year in Review 2015, brought to you by Keeneland Sales and Racing. Until next time, may all your photo finishes be winning ones.